Hello, in this lesson I will walk you through the steps necessary to develop a lesson plan using the SIOP lesson plan template that I distributed in class. After you've completed the lesson plan template, you will scan it and upload it into Blackboard using the Dropbox I have created in the Week 4 folder. The topic for this lesson is the math lesson I distributed in class on Monday. You may leave class blank and you can fill in today's date. What exactly is a content objective, and what should be the content objectives for this lesson? In effective instruction, concrete content objectives that identify what students should know and be able to do must guide teaching and learning. These objectives should support school, district, or state content standards and learning outcomes. It is important to write lesson level objectives in a lesson and use student friendly language that suits the age and proficiency levels in the class. The bottom line for English language learners is that content objectives need to be written in terms of what students will learn or do, be stated simply, orally, and in writing, and tied to specific grade level content standards. It may be necessary to limit content objectives to only one or two per lesson to reduce the complexity of the learning task. An example of a content objective might be students will add 2-digit numbers to find a sum. Note that the word add suggests that some action will be taken on the part of students that is visible to the teacher. Therefore, we would call this a behavioral content objective because students will do something that the teacher will be able to observe, and the teacher can check to ensure that it is being done properly and accurately. And to take that further in terms of thinking about a language objective, we might write SWABOT, which stands for Students Will Be Able to Define the Word Sum. Notice the connection between the content objective and the language objective. So now, what exactly are language objectives? You'll probably ask the question, well, language objectives look similar to content objectives. Therefore, why do we need to have both? Well, when we're thinking about English language learners and other students who have language issues, we must be considerate that we are doing both teaching a skill and also helping those students to acquire and develop language. The following objectives for a SIOP language arts class show the progression of objectives that might be taught over several days. Students will be able to recognize similes in text, discuss the function of similes, write 3 similes, write a paragraph that describes a setting using similes. While carefully planning and delivering content objectives, SIOP requires teachers to incorporate in their lesson plans activities that support students' language development as well. As with content objectives, language objectives should be stated clearly and simply, and students should be informed of them both orally and in writing. Language objectives may cover a range from process-oriented to performance-oriented statements so that students have a chance to explore and then practice before demonstrating mastery of an objective. As you write your objectives, keep the verbs in the chart here in mind. Although the verbs are not exclusive to one type or another, they are more common to the category presented. Over time, add to this list to further distinguish between the content and language goals of your lessons. Once you have written your content and language objectives, you might use this checklist to evaluate them. Number one, the objectives are observable. The objectives are written and presented in language the students can understand. The content objective is related to the key concept of the lesson. The language objective promotes student academic language growth. It is not something most students already do well. The language objectives connects clearly with the lesson topic or lesson activities. And lastly, I have a plan for assessing student progress on meeting these objectives during the lesson. And now let's check for understanding. The following objectives are from an 8th grade language arts class. Which one is the content objective and which is the language objective? Think about it and think about being able to justify your answer. In this scenario, one second. In this scenario, number one is your language objective, and number two is your content objectives.